What happened to make you say, I'm never coming to this restaurant again? We got home and realized neither of us had paid the bill. Not quite what I was expecting from this thread, but alright. My wife is celiac, so really intense real gluten allergy. We get a gluten-free menu. It lists chicken and waffles. She orders it, takes a few bites, and comments that it's the best gluten-free waffle she's ever tasted. She starts to feel sick and asks the waiter, "Oh, the waffle isn't gluten-free, just the chicken." I love how he has to clarify, like, it's a legit gluten intolerance. It's not just one of these trendy people that thinks that if I only ever eat gluten-free, that means I can't be gluttonous, right? But personally, I'm a contrarian, so I usually ask for my food with extra gluten. I worked at this place for one day. It was a deli-type place. I had 5 years kitchen experience and needed the work in a small town. Within 5 minutes, I was questioning their sanity disposition, with unregulated temperatures, improper disposal methods, and general disregard for cleanliness. After a half hour, I told myself I needed the money, could look past it, and do my best to make improvements over time. Then came the French fry that broke the camel's back. Their fryer, they dumped a basket of fries in it, but when it came out, it had a brown film, or sludge, over the delicious crispy fried potato product. I asked if they were going to serve that to the customer, and they said yes. It's the gravy. After further questioning, I found out they inherited the property and the oil hadn't been changed in 7 years. After 45 minutes of working there, I quit and called the health inspector. I never looked back. Hey, reused grease just adds extra flavor. I went to a local Mexican place and got a burrito. I took a bite in and found glass. Yeah, I hate it when I bite into some food and realize that I forgot to ask without it. So next time you order that, just make sure that they hold the glass. The little brownie mix package was baked into the brownie. Oh man, it smells like Faye was just making brownies. I used to go to a diner all the time that was owned by a guy who was friends of my parents. From when I was around 10 or so, I would stop there on my way to school almost daily and get breakfast. Usually just cereal or some toast, sometimes eggs, as my parents both worked early and wouldn't be home. Never paid a dime either. On weekends, I would usually go there with my parents and get a full fry up. Eggs, bacon, sausage, hash browns, ham, the works. The food was incredible. I had a huge crush on one of the waitresses. She would always be working the mornings and would talk to me and be super friendly and call me sweetie or honey, and I'd always look forward to seeing her. I'm sure she knew it too. She was gorgeous, or at least she was to 10-year-old me. Anyway, we moved, and one of my last thoughts as we were leaving that town were, I'm never going to that restaurant again. Yeah, okay, I guess it technically fits in this topic. We went to the old country buffet a long time ago, and my dad got a hot dog that turned out to be moldy. We haven't gone back. See, I don't understand how you have food at a buffet that's around long enough to actually become moldy. I feel like they would cycle through food a lot faster than most restaurants. A Mexican restaurant I had never been to before. Me and 2 friends go in, wait for a while by the door while being stared at by staff. Eventually we sat ourselves. A boy no older than 10 years old greeted us after a minute, and I asked for a water. He said they didn't have water. Sorry man, the water machine is broken. A local breakfast place in my hometown that I went to as a kid ordered a Belgian waffle, and it comes out dark brown and crunchy. I complained that it was burned, and they sent it back to make a new one. About 5 minutes later, they returned with a new waffle. Except it wasn't new, it had bite marks, right where I had bitten it. And hey, the section I bit out of had butter on it. They walked in the back and turned the waffle over, thinking no one would notice. Like, okay, if somebody freaks out and complains because there's a hair on their plate, then I could see something like this working, where they just take it in, pull the hair out, bring it right back out to the person. But if they're complaining that it's burnt, I don't know that you could pass that same one off again. When I was 3, my parents and I were at Pizza Hut, and when the waiter brought out drinks, he spilled them all over me. And all 3 of us got popped, so I was sticky. This in itself wasn't too bad, but when my parents got the check, they realized that they got charged for 2 sets of drinks, including the ones that were spilled on me. When my dad asked the waiter about this, he said it was only fair. This is the only time I've ever seen my dad not tip. Hey, when you take a soda bath in our restaurant, we don't just give those out for free. It was our favorite bar. We used to live down the road from it. We had our first date there and knew every employee, even the cooks in the back. We moved about 25 minutes away. We got engaged and needed to save money. We went for the first time in months, and the menu changed drastically. The management changed, almost none of the servers recognized us, as most of the staff had left. We tried to give it a go, but the food was awful. They'd even changed cooks. We realized what we had was gone. Yeah, it really sucks when there's a place that you used to go to all the time, but then there's just a whole bunch of changes there, and so there's really no way to just go back to it. There was a small fly, a fruit fly I think, in my fried egg. It was all fried and crispy. I wasn't even that bothered. I'm not a confrontational person. I didn't even want a whole new meal, I just wanted a new egg. The waitress came back from the kitchen and said the chef was insisting it was a bit of herb that he used in his cooking. You could see the legs and wings. They were so insistent that I could see it wasn't worth arguing. They were a new business as well, so you would have thought that they would want to establish a customer base. It's like, hey, we put bugs in all of our plates, so it doesn't matter if you get a new one. A family-owned restaurant didn't honor a 3-week in advance reservation for Valentine's Day, but instead overbooked and didn't seat us until an hour later, then proceeded to give us silverware and ask us for drinks 20 minutes after that. We just said not to bother and left. See, I was hoping to do a very topical one for Valentine's Day, and now I can say that this qualifies. We were completely ignored. It was a small, family-owned Mexican restaurant that was extremely popular. We'd been there many times. We were the only people sitting in one waitress's section. We watched her as she stood there talking to the busboys and cooks in plain view of our table. We had to walk up to her to ask her to take our order and go up again to ask for another margarita. We then had to go up and ask for the check. It was the only time I didn't leave a tip. I have no idea what we did to her. The other waitress in the different section was actually doing her job, and she had a full section. The only thing I can think of is it was the end of her shift and she didn't care. See, to all the people, especially outside the US, who think that the whole tipping culture is stupid, see, this is one benefit to tipping culture, as when your server sucks, you just don't have to pay them. It hasn't happened yet. I have very, very low standards. I mean, that's basically how I feel. I don't know why people get so worked up over very little things. Like, if I have a bad experience somewhere, it's like, oh well, maybe it'll be better next time. It usually has to suck like at least 3 or 4 times in a row for me to just lose interest. There's a little cafe in my town that I would frequent about twice a month. I went there a couple months ago and asked to place a to-go order. The waitress told me to wait and see if they could still take orders. This was at like 6:30 p.m., so no reason why they wouldn't be taking orders. She's gone for like 15 minutes, comes back and said that they aren't taking any more orders for the night. As she's saying this, a couple comes in and sits down. She proceeds to give them a menu and asks to take their order. I just said, "You have to be freaking kidding me. I'm never coming here again," and stormed out. Oh, well, maybe they just decided they didn't like you anymore. The nozzle fell off of the soda fountain, and bug parts fell out into my cup. Roaches and other bugs in the soda fountain are common problems if you don't clean it properly. I told a worker, and they just screwed the nozzle back on when they thought I wasn't looking. Who knows what else they weren't cleaning. See, maybe that's the problem with being able to fill up your own soda, because if they can fill it up for you, then when all the bug parts fall in your drink, they can just pick it out and give you the drink, and you'll never know. I went to Ruby Tuesdays once, and there was a partially frozen, entire stick of butter on my steak. See, how does a waiter pick that up, walk it all the way out, and set it in front of you without noticing that? You know, I was actually just thinking, I haven't been to a Ruby Tuesdays in a long time, and then I looked on the map, and there are none in my entire state anymore, so something must have gone wrong there. I booked a table for 7 people at an Indian restaurant. I had this confirmed by email, and the manager even called me a few hours before to remind me and let me know they were looking forward to hosting us. I arrive at the restaurant and the manager is nowhere to be seen. The staff tell me there is no booking and even suggest I've booked over the road. I show them my phone log and they say it's definitely not the phone number. They begin trying to usher us towards the exit. I start thinking I've messed up big time and freak out that I've screwed up organizing a get-together for my best friend who is moving away. I decide to call the number that had phoned me earlier. Then the restaurant telephone right next to us starts to ring. The guy who said I had no booking picks up. He notices it's me, but decides to pretend he thinks I'm another customer calling in. It feels like a scene from Fawlty Towers. I'm on the phone to him and standing right next to him. "Hello, I'm standing beside you. I have a booking. I've got an email confirmation, and you also called me today. You just pretended this wasn't your number, and now you've answered it right in front of me. I'm pretty sure I'm not booked over the road, but I wish I was." Yeah, I mean, it could be a Fawlty Towers scene, but it also just could be like a Twilight Zone scene, where reality just somehow changes between the time you called and when you showed up. I was eating at a Chinese restaurant where you order rice by the bowl. From the angle I was sitting, I saw the waiters taking half uneaten bowls of rice and dumping them back into the rice cooker. You know, I actually just passed another story in this thread where someone was at a Chinese restaurant and they saw an employee, like, sneeze onto the food. So I guess I'm starting to understand when people say they get food poisoning from Chinese restaurants. I went to Olive Garden. I got pasta Alfredo, and at the bottom of my dish there was plastic. Not like a tiny piece, but the entire freaking wrapper for Parmesan cheese. I gagged. I was at Olive Garden a couple days ago, and they didn't leave any wrappers in my pasta or anything, but they seemed to just forget that we were there. They sat us down, and then it took like 15 or 20 minutes for the server to actually come to our table, as we watched every table around us get sat and take orders. They bring out food quickly after I order it. It's lukewarm, so I send it back. I hear the microwave ding. They bring it out, still cold in the center. They put their finger in the center to verify. They bring it back. Ding. May I have a to-go box? Yeah, I think a lot of people assume that when you're at a restaurant, whatever goes on behind the closed doors back in the kitchen is some super advanced secrets that they can use their magic to create your food. But it's a lot of the same stuff you would do at home. I went to a sushi joint for a birthday with about a dozen people, ordered fat stacks of snacks, waited for over an hour for the main course. I then inquired as to where the piles were. Turns out the kitchen lost the ticket. Ended up being after closing time and they refused to make our dinner. They essentially just kicked us out. It made the birthday girl cry and everything. See, whenever I'm at a restaurant and they really mess something up like this, I usually just say like, alright, well maybe this will turn out well, because they usually try to overcompensate and really give back when they mess up. But if they just kick you out like that, I would probably tell everyone that that place sucks. I went to a restaurant on my birthday. They found out and surprised me with a huge piece of cake. Then they added the cake to the receipt. Wow, we heard you guys were celebrating, so we decided to forcefully sell you something for it. Chinese restaurant. They stored their to-go containers in the restaurant bathroom. Oh man, these Chinese restaurants just do not give a crap. It literally took almost 4 hours to get our food, almost an hour to get a seat, and 3 after we ordered. Not busy and not a holiday. Tables were open everywhere. Couldn't understand what the heck their problem was, and it wasn't even that good. We should have left, but his mom was adamant that we try their food. Horrible experience. It's a restaurant in Legionnaire, Pennsylvania. 4 hours, huh? Did they just have one person running the whole restaurant? Well, that's all of the restaurant stories for today. I'm hoping to try and dissuade all of you guys from going to restaurants so that there's no wait if I decide to go to one. But I'm sure that there's still going to be like a 4-hour wait everywhere, so I'm just going to eat my hamburger helper and call it a day. Now, I don't really care about Valentine's Day that much, but the day before, which is today recording this, today is my cat's 5th year anniversary. So she just turned 9 years old and I've been with Faye for 5 years now. So go support my cat on her YouTube channel.